It's a gross sex move. It's a wrestler's finisher. It's a sandwich. It's a lot of things. But a movie, it shouldn't be.
If you're still listening, this is our final transmission.
We're here, Jamie.
We are here. And I've got one word to say to everybody listening to this.
Yeah.
Welcome. This is the Final Transmission podcast. I am Jamie Carruthers. You are Sam Russo.
I like what you did there with the welcome. Very nice.
Little tidbit for people that have seen the movie.
What movie are we talking about today, Jamie?
This week, Sammy, we're talking about The Midnight Meat Train.
The Midnight Meat Train.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, isn't it?
It's among the worst movie titles ever, I think.
It's based on a short story from Clive Barker's Books of Blood, also titled The Midnight Meat Train.
Come on.
And much like the movie, the story takes itself quite seriously, but I do think that they are playing a little bit there with something vaguely titillating. It's got to mean your knob, right?
I mean, it better. If it doesn't work on any level. So
Yeah.
apart from the obviously incredibly literal level, but there's just no reason to name this movie this. You could have done what would you have called it if Midnight Meat Train was off the table for copyright reasons?
I'd have called it Hard as Mahogany.
That's actually superb. Mahogany, for those who don't know, is one of the bad guys, played by Vinnie Jones.
Yeah.
So just when you thought Midnight Meat Train couldn't get any worse, it's got Vinnie Jones in it.
Yeah, played by one of Britain's foremost thespians.
Yep, good old Vincent Jones.
Vincent Rawlinson Jones.
I don't think we need to tell people who Vinnie Jones is, but just in case you're an American, I don't know. Vinnie Jones was a professional footballer turned loosely actor and has been in some films. Famously, I don't know what, Snatch?
Yeah, was he in Snatch? He was definitely in
Is he
Lock,
in
Stock,
any
and Two...
movies that aren't fucking sexual innuendo titles? Snatch and the Midnight Meat Train, Vinnie Jones.
Yeah, he's in Euro Trip.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course he is.
He's definitely in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
He's a complete shithouse fuckboy, and he's in this film.
I want to know what like Americans see when they look at Vinnie Jones, because I can't see anything but an angry football man.
Same, because he doesn't do any acting, really. He just is Vinnie Jones.
But also, he's the only professional footballer that has managed to make a successful acting career, right?
No, surely not. Eric Cantona has been in some adverts.
Eric Cantona has been in some adverts. He's also been in a movie where he played a guy's imaginary friend who is Eric Cantona.
Brilliant. It's quite good casting. Gotta give him that. For a minute there, I was like, hang on, Danny Dyer's had a great career. And then I realized he was never a professional footballer. He just fucking should have been. He acts
No,
like
Danny Dyer is actually, and this might surprise some people, but he's actually like a theatre lover.
Yeah, he's quite an interesting fella.
He was sort of brought into theatre via like Stephen Burkhoff and like made his sort of first stage appearance. I'm pretty sure it was like Pinter.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
like obviously he's parlayed his sort of cockiness into this sort of character of a vaguely tough man, but he's definitely underneath it all a theatre lover.
He also once famously parlayed his cock into a donut, which made the tabloid headlines in England.
Yeah, he also wrote the best tweet that anyone's ever written.
Which one? He's written so many. What's your favourite?
It was September the 11th, 2011, and he said, "Can't believe it's 10 years since those slags flew a plane into the Twin Towers. Still does my nut to this day."
Slags. I guarantee those terrorists never thought Danny Dyer would posthumously refer to them as slags. And they say
like...
the terrorists win when we talk shit online. Not this time. Danny Dyer. He's got
Yeah.
your number. But he's no Vinnie Jones, let's be honest. And Vinnie Jones is no Danny Dyer. They are two distinct people. One was a professional footballer, one wasn't. I must remind myself of this throughout the duration of this episode. Do you like Vinnie Jones?
No.
Did you like him as a player?
No.
Okay, good. We're on the same page.
I don't even remember what team he played for.
Wimbledon, Leeds, Sheffield United, Chelsea, and QPR.
There you go.
I
QPR
know
is
him, yeah.
from where I remember him, yeah.
I know him as a Chelsea player. You know him as a QPR player. We are real football nuts over here at the Final Transmission podcast.
We are.
We just about know two teams Vinnie Jones played for.
Yeah. Football loopy, nuts away. That's the song, right?
Football, soccer. Yeah. So this movie, starring, I guess, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Not to be eclipsed by Vinnie Jones's presence.
Bradley Cooper, Leslie Bibb, Brooke Shields, Ted Raimi pops up. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the best bit. I don't think you like Bradley Cooper either.
I have a difficult relationship with Bradley Cooper.
Like your dad.
Yeah. Bradley Cooper is not my dad.
We have a similarly complicated relationship with both.
I don't know if the relationships are similarly complicated, but they are both complicated.
Tell me more about your complicated relationship with Bradley Cooper.
I just think he loves the smell of his own farts.
I mean, don't we all?
Yeah, but not for millions of dollars.
I wish. Do you have any WhatsApp groups where you just exclusively send each other your farts as voice recordings?
No. I would never be able to hit the microphone that quick. Every fart is a shock.
It's a surprise. You live on the teetering brink of a horrible accident all day, every day. And you fart, look shocked, and then express huge relief.
Yeah.
That it wasn't a turd. Let's get on the Midnight Meat Train.
Yes. So, Sam, had you seen Midnight Meat Train before?
Yes. Did I remember any of it? Not really. When did you first see the Midnight Meat Train pulling into the station?
I mean, I would have seen it reasonably contemporaneously, so when it came out. I had definitely read the short story before.
Right. As part of the book, or did you seek it out with knowledge of the Midnight Meat Train?
No, as part of the book. So okay. I'm a big Clive head. That's what we call ourselves in the fandom. I'm a big Barcarino.
Yep.
And I read a lot of his books, and that was one of them.
Fascinating stuff. Moving on. So this was 2008. So I'm assuming you owned this on DVD as part of your enormous DVD wall that was very famous at the time.
Correct.
Excellent. Another brick in the wall.
I did own it on DVD, and I still do own it on DVD.
Did you watch it on DVD for the pod?
No, it's on Amazon Prime, Sam.
Of course. So we've both seen it before. We rewatched it. What were your immediate thoughts? Or do you want to synopsize and then come back?
No, I mean, let's do a fairly mild, spoiler-free review and snops.
A top liner.
Yeah. Just in case, anyone wants to listen to this and hasn't seen the Midnight Meat Train, because there are some sort of fairly twisty elements to it, you could say.
Sure, yeah. We don't want to give anything away. We don't want to ruin anyone's Friday night.
Yeah, so let's drop a quick synopsis. We'll talk roughly around the movie without any spoilers, and then we'll take a break and come back and get into the meat of the train.
The titular meat. Let's do that then. Come on then. What do you think?
Okay, so, the synopsis. Bradley Cooper stars as Leon Kaufman, no relation to Lloyd. Or maybe he is, I don't know.
Maybe he is. Let's just go with he is. He's his brother.
Leon Kaufman is a photographer in the city, which in the book is New York. Is never identified as New York in the movie. But
no, there's mention of Philly cheesesteaks, which made me think Philly, but then maybe not.
He is trying
I just dropped a huge spoiler. At some point, someone says Philly cheesesteak. Sorry, everyone.
He is trying to parlay his genius photography into a career in high art. He wants to move away from ambulance chasing and move into watching people get raped or whatever. So he could take photos of him for Brooke Shields, who is silly. He comes across a woman being attacked. He sort of saves her eventually after taking loads of photos. But then she also she disappears onto the subway, and then she disappears from the world. And this sends Leon Kaufman on down a rabbit hole to try and figure out what has been killing people on the subway for a period of time.
Good dodge there.
And the spoiler answer there is it's Vinnie Jones.
You can tell that from the cover. Not a spoiler, everyone.
Yeah.
Here's not a spoiler either. Brooke Shields. She's in this film, in a way.
Correct.
Was she a model before she was an actress? Is that why we know Brooke Shields? Was she like a Playboy bunny or something?
That's a good question.
Because I don't know where I know her from. She sounds like a country singer. She's not. She is not memorable to me for any like big roles. She's got Playboy bunny vibes, but I don't know if that's where she came from. So I don't want to, upset anyone by getting Brooke Shields wrong.
She was a model in the 60s, I think. 60s and 70s.
Okay.
And then started working like a child model, I think.
Okay, cool.
And then started working in films sort of fairly young.
I probably just know her from her child modeling career.
Yeah. She's been in loads of stuff.
Okay, fine.
She's a very famous actress, Sam.
I'd bet my anus that she was in some CSI.
I mean, maybe. I don't know if she was.
Uh-oh. I need my anus. I take that back. I don't make that bet. What about Leslie Bibb? She's not in much that I know.
I think Leslie Bibb's in quite a lot of stuff that you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, take that back as well.
She's in a bunch of Iron Man movies.
Don't watch them.
She was in The Zookeeper. You love that movie, right?
The Zookeeper? I don't know any of this. What are you talking about? The Zookeeper?
Yeah, it's a Dr. Dolittle type movie with Kevin James. She was in Risk Cut as a Love Story. Have you seen that? That's a good movie.
She was in The Babysitter. I've seen that. About a boy. This is a fucking steamer of an IMDb page. Okay, back to the top line cast. We've done them, but we do get Ted Raimi in this.
We do. Friend of the pod.
Randall Cooper, played by Ted Raimi. Too brief appearance, as always.
Yeah, I mean, his character is weird, right? This guy is trying to trick him and his wife into a three-way.
That seems to be it. It all feels very improvised. Like they just said, Ted, say creepy shit to these people and they won't know what to do. And he was like, okay, that's my MO. And
but he's the one being creeped on. It's the other guy that's trying to get them to them to fuck him. He's like, my wife. Me and my wife are gonna be me and my wife.
Yeah, some great dialogue. So what is it what do you think of this film? Come on. Give us a glimpse.
Think this film is better than it should be.
Or
even is somehow.
Is this your way of saying you like it more than it is good?
Yeah, it makes me think about things that I find interesting. And some of those things are spoilers and we'll talk about them later.
Okay.
But like Clive Barker is a writer from Liverpool. It's the city where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And despite being a huge posh sod, he writes about class in a way that I think is quite interesting. And I think that there's a important conversation about class happening underneath the bad dialogue and the CG gore that comes through in this movie. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for listening. This has been Final Transition.
That's sorry. I was just convinced you were going to blow the trumpet for this movie a lot harder than you are. So it looks like I'm going to have to temper some of my criticism if that's the best you got. This film is listen, when you buy a ticket to get on the midnight meat train, you ride it to the end of the line. You know what you're going to get. You know what you're in for, and the things that happen to you. So I'm going to go easy on this, but it's not very good. I feel the same as you, but with a slightly different bent in that I should hate it, but I don't. I think it's mediocre.
I think
it has so much I hate in it, but for some reason it's not ruined.
Yeah, well, I think maybe we're on the same page here, because I think categorically the worst thing about Midnight Meat Train is the fact that it was made in 2008, and therefore contains all of the shit of mid-budget 15 million, but mid-budget horror movies made around that time. So
Yeah.
CG gore, fucking Vinnie Jones, shot in grayo vision. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. It's like the thing about the gore is that it's like 2008 obviously to the max, turned up to 100, but with like fucking 308 balls of coke per cast member, per crew member thrown in. Like, there's no reason for it to go that far and look that bad. Like,
yeah,
at least with a lot of movies, they were kind of trying to pull back, hide, pan away from some of the CGI gore just to kind of keep it almost peripheral or in support of a small amount of real gore. Like, even when you watch Final Destination, stuff like that, which leans so heavily on dumb CG gore, it's still kind of like, ooh, don't look too close at that. Whereas this is like, look all you want. Like,
yeah.
it's fucking right in your face the whole time.
Well, yeah, like, obviously they're trying to do something here, and they're trying to say,
Yeah.
like, all these other films, they're tiptoeing around the gore, and we don't want to tiptoe around it. And that's kind of a Clive Barkerism, who his company produced this, so he was quite involved in the making of it.
Mm.
We're saying it was directed by Ryohei Kitamura, who directed some films that I do like quite a lot, like Versus. But I feel like if you made this in 1982 or 1997 or even 2015, 1985, like all of those years, you would have got a much better movie out of it without changing too much.
Yeah.
Like, I think fundamentally the performances are pretty good. You've got like actual actors doing performances, which is more than a movie called Midnight Meat Train deserves, frankly.
Yeah.
But you've got these quite big swings from a director doing quite cool stuff.
Mm.
And you've got this kind of unflinching approach, which I think is a bit brave.
Mm.
And sometimes when you do something brave, you fucking fall on your face and a load of CG gore comes out. So
Yeah, you see Brave, I see enormous amounts of coke, and I think that's fine. One probably precipitated the other. And I agree. I think if, I hate being the guy that's like, oh, if you'd done this, it would have been better, because I don't know shit. But real gore, holy crap, you're in a whole different meat train.
yeah, well, we've talked about this a lot before because we know that, like, even if it
Practical effects,
looks,
bud.
yeah, even if it looks shit, it's still there and in the moment. And the reason that CGI gore exists, particularly on a budget film like this, is that you can't afford to wash your train carriages down every single time you need to set up a new shot.
I don't know. I would question that, because you can just jet wash it and bung a fan in there, and yeah, it might add a little bit of time and a little bit of money, but you just fucking do it, dude. I don't know. I think it feels like a director decision, like, to go that hard on the CGI gore, knowing how guff it looks, to literally pop a head out of a skull and track, pop an eye out of a skull and track the eye, like really close up across a train. Yeah, I don't know. Again,
I mean,
that's my main point of access problem, is that I stop enjoying the film as soon as that happens, because I'm not watching a film anymore.
but like, we're looking at that with 2024 eyes, right? When you played Doom as a kid, and you were coming off the back of like fucking, what's the game with the egg? Dizzy. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and like the difference in those graphics was insane. And then when we moved to like Duke Nukem on like the Nintendo 64,
Yeah.
that looked so real to me when I was a kid.
Mm.
Lara Croft's big triangular bosom was so supple and lovely to me as a child. And now you look back on it and it is just 3 polygons put on top of each other, and that's meant to be a woman. Like,
Still hot. But I think,
you know what I mean? Like,
but the point there is that your imagination does the heavy lifting, because it's trained to do that. You're given reductive graphics, or you're given imperfect imagery, and your mind is because of the positioning that it's in, whatever you're playing a game, you know what to expect. It does the legwork and fills in the gaps, whereas this does too much, and that's why it fails. It tries to look too real when it has no hope of doing so, in my opinion. I don't know. Like, when I play Alex Kidd, Now, I still think this looks fucking great. It looks amazing. This world looks like this. It's a little pixelated world with pixelated trees and a little guy with a huge ear and a big fist. Whereas this is like, nothing looks like that. Nothing behaves like that. Nobody moves like that. And in a huge wild swing for like picture perfect accuracy, you actually end up with the polar opposite and it just yanks people out. But again, I am so in the minority on this, I think, because I know people who absolutely love this kind of CG, who think it's like, looks incredible stylistically. They know it doesn't look perfect, but they're like, oh, no, it's an amazing stylistic choice. And I respect that.
I mean, I don't, the scene with the eyeball, I don't hate that.
Mm.
The egregious piece of CG gore for me is the scene where a character is being hung upside down and their throat gets cut, and it's in first person, which is a cool thing to do there.
Mm.
And then their blood pools on the floor, and we're looking through their eyes and seeing their reflection in the pool of blood, and it just sort of looks like, I don't know, like we're at fucking Disneyland or something.
Isn't it funny that like we both hate it, but your least favorite is my favorite, and my least favorite is your favorite?
I mean, my favorite gore in the film is in the opening scene because that's all real blood. Not real blood, but like real practical effect blood.
The hammer whack.
No, where the guy slips over and he's like...
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Just like scrabbling around, like making a little blood angel.
In real
like,
syrupy blood, yeah.
And like, that looks amazing because it's really there. And even like, it's slightly too red and it's slightly too gloopy and it would have gone black within seconds or whatever. Like, it's not realistic, but it...
Yeah.
But you can...
But that's not the realism I give a shit about. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see a real autopsy and a real, when I get a coroner sandwich scene, I don't want to see like real inside a body. I want to see Hollywood inside a body, but I want it to look convincing and in keeping with the atmosphere of the film, the action, the aesthetic, everything else. And I just feel like as soon as you start firing this like dark purple fucking liquid shit everywhere in on a computer screen, it just stops being a movie.
But the point is that we like it,
that's my first barrier, Sorry, what?
But the point is that we like the movie, right?
I can't say that I actually like this movie. I think it does a lot of really cool shit in quite clever ways, and I just wish there was more about it that I liked, because it's not a terrible film by any stretch of the imagination. It just misses the mark for me. That being said, probably my favorite Vinnie Jones performance, because he only says one word, and it's normally his like dialogue acting that bums me out.
Yeah, I think about the moment in Eurotrip, which I think I rewatched quite recently for some fucking unknown reason.
Yeah, okay.
His scene in Eurotrip is so funny.
Why?
Like the Eurotrippers, the Americans, they go into like a West Ham pub or whatever, and he's like the head hooligan in the pub, and it's just quite a funny scene.
Okay, is he? I think, yeah, isn't he? He's like Lonsdale, fucking. Oh, he's like Fred Perried up, and he's ready to. Yeah, I think I remember that.
And it's like, oh, if you really like West Ham, sing the special West Ham song, and the guy like makes up a song about West Ham, and then they all join in, and it's fucking great. It's really silly.
See, yeah, I don't know. I just don't love him in more serious roles, and I don't love him when he does any kind of dialogue, to be totally honest. So as a hulking machine guy, for the most part, are we spoiling or not?
We're not spoiling yet.
Crikey, we haven't even got to spoilers. As a hulking killer of the silent type, I think he's pretty effective.
Do you want to get into spoilers? Shall we take a break and come back, and then we can...
Yeah, let's do that.
So, yeah, spoilers coming up after the break, which is now.
Whoa, holy shit. I guess that's why they call it Phantom Power.
Right, spoilers.
I've got a spoiler for you, Sam.
Go on.
Red Scare Industries are spoiling us with this new compilation that they've got out celebrating 20 years of Red Scare Industries. Tell us more about it.
It's a comp. It features a lot of great bands from the label's illustrious history. It's available for pre-order. You can buy it on the web with your money now. And it's great. It's got the track listing's available. You can see who's doing what, who's covering who, and it's going to be wonderful. There's also a bunch of party shows happening on the West Coast in the US. Check out the dates. And yeah, come along and celebrate with us. It's a big milestone for an independent record label to reach 20 years, and we're very excited.
Yep. Go to redscare.net, pre-order the comp, buy a couple of other LPs while you're there.
Why not?
And send them to me. Why not?
Yeah, spoil Jamie. That's what we mean by spoilers. Buy Jamie objects. He loves them.
I do love objects.
Yeah, you've got a lot of objects. Do you have any Midnight Meat Train memorabilia?
No.
That's a shame. So, you know.
I do keep a block of mahogany in the shed.
Yeah, I bet you do. I don't have any rich mahogany in my shed. I do have some Nordic pine, which is very nice. And I have a huge slab of some kind of oak that I need to do something with. Shove it up my ass and go fuck myself. So, Vinnie Jones's character evolution is kind of fun.
Yeah. Say more.
I don't expect him to be weak or weakened in any way at any point, and it turns out he's a deeply flawed villain with lots of problems, physical, mental, etc. And I like that transition because that felt like a little surprise. I just expected, okay, we've got fucking Terminator Vinnie Jones coming at us for the rest of the movie, and that's fine. But no, he gives us a bit of a tweak and a change in the trajectory other than what we're expecting, which is fun.
Yeah, I think that facilitates one of the better sort of gore scenes in the movie, although there's not actually really any gore in it. But when he's cutting off like warts off his chest and putting them in jars, that is genuinely quite uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, it's gross, and in a pretty cool way. I don't understand why it's happening. I don't understand why any of it happens, why he puts them in jars, why he meticulously lines them up in rows in his little vanity there. But sure, if chop them off and show us. They're like fucking squid rings, like grey squid rings growing on his chest.
Yeah, like I don't know, like it's never really referred to in the text of the movie, like what's happening here. Whether it's just like he's got some sort of terrible illness and therefore is compromised as the movie moves forward and therefore needs to find someone to replace him as the Midnight Meat Man, or whether being Mr. Midnight Meat Man takes a physical toll on you. The proximity with these old gods or whatever that live under the city. That's a big spoiler there, just so you know. Whether that takes a physical toll on you and then causes you to, mutate into a weird lumpy man who coughs up blood.
Yeah. While I was watching it, I thought, okay, so he's the being the Midnight Meat Man means having some kind of pact with the monsters under the city, and if you do it wrong, you die. Was what I thought initially, but I just don't fucking know or care if that's necessarily true.
All they're saying is that, like, for some reason he can no longer be the Meat Man.
Yeah.
And he needs to meet a new man to be the new Meat Man.
Yep, to pass the meat torch.
Yeah.
A lot of meat in this movie. A lot of meat on display. A lot of meat being eaten. A lot of meat being...
It's so funny the way they set up Leon Kaufman as being a vegan. Which is him taking a block of tofu into the diner that his girlfriend works in and be like, please put this on the grill for me.
A whole block. That's his lunch. Just chuck a whole block of tofu on your grill and I'll eat it like a steak. And like it happens every day.
Yeah. And the guy's like, your tofu will infect all of our meat. When in fact, the meat juices, I don't know about other vegans, but when I was vegan, I didn't want meat juices getting on my tofu that I was having at a shitty greasy spoon diner.
He does say that. He does say, I don't mind your meat juices getting on my tofu, so you shouldn't mind my tofu getting on your meat juices, which is a big compromise. I think that's big of him. Weirdly, I don't really mind, as a vegetarian, I don't really mind like picking meat out of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's not the end of the world to me if I have to.
Yeah, I think that's sort of a difference between vegetarianism and veganism, though, isn't it? It's like...
Yeah. Well, it depends how hardline vegan you are anyway. Anyway, we couldn't possibly be talking about anything more boring if we get into that. So Bradley Cooper sells the whole, like, I don't know. I do feel like he's quite convincing in this. Whatever he's doing at any point in this film, I do believe he's that thing.
Yeah, I mean he's a good actor. I don't like him, but he is a good actor who can
I think he's
give
a pretty
good
fucking
performances.
fantastic actor in a lot of stuff. It's a real shame. I think in a lot of ways it's a real shame he's in this. I wish it was someone else. But I like how they make him out in this, and I like when people do this effectively. He's obviously one of the most fucking handsome guys in Hollywood at this point, and they make him kind of unlikable and a bit of a dweeb, and kind of difficult to be around, and generally a little bit, I don't know, there's just an edge to him that's maybe kind of slimy, and I find that quite impressive considering how gorgeous he is.
I like when he goes full Pepe Sylvia, like that whole insane, like Charlie smoking a million cigarettes and delving into conspiracies. Like that stuff's really fun, and he looks suitably fucked in those scenes.
Yeah, when they say he's fucked, he does look, kind of fucked. And speaking of fucking, when he fucks Leslie Bibb over that counter,
yeah,
Jesus Christ. Something for everyone in this film. If you want to watch Bradley Cooper just bang someone, if you want to watch Bradley Cooper drive the midnight meat train up Leslie Bibb bent over a counter, this is the movie for you.
Yeah, I mean, that scene is meant to be like, oh, he's being affected by the midnight meat. It's getting in his brain and turning him into something different.
It
but
did not feel that way.
No, it just sort of felt unpleasant.
Yeah.
Like she's not enjoying it, we're not enjoying it. Is he
I couldn't tell
it?
if we were he was enjoying it, I think, but I couldn't tell if we were supposed to think that she was enjoying it. Like, oh, I love it when he's rough with me, because there's no chemistry between these characters in my opinion. It's really hard to watch at times. It's supposed to be pretty sizzling, and they're supposed to be kind of like a down and out, not down and out. They're supposed to be like a struggling young couple trying to find a foothold in the world and the rat race, and he's trying to be an artist, and she's just trying to get by and support him and love him. But the chemistry is fucking non-existent, and it feels bad when they're on screen.
I also think that his photos aren't very good.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to do a deep dive critique on his photography portfolio.
I mean, I am yet to be blown away by photography as art, like gallery art of still photos.
Wow, okay.
Like,
you're probably looking in the wrong place, but Midnight Meat Train is maybe not the media that's going to completely redefine your understanding of aesthetic art.
No, but he's meant to be, this incredible photographer that's taking these beautiful photos.
I don't know, is he?
That really capture the dark side of the city. And
at one point, yeah, sure.
Like that's his whole thing. Even when he's not doing it right, the photos are still meant to be good. They're just not capturing the dark side of the city.
Yeah.
We want to see the scum touch the businessman or whatever it is that Brooke Shields says.
Yeah.
So but they're just boring photos of people.
They 100% just serve the narrative of the movie, I'm afraid, Jamie.
Yeah.
They were never going to be good, I don't think. I think if they were too good, we wouldn't be able to believe his, predicament of being in complete obscurity, maybe. I don't know. I didn't think they were that bad. I think I took similar shit when I was at uni. I don't know how old he's supposed to be in this, but...
Well, he's meant to be a working photographer who sells his photos to the newspaper.
Oh, yeah, newspaper stuff, yeah.
But is trying to, branch out into real art.
With his nighttime walks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I buy him as exactly what I think he's meant to be in this movie, like a struggling dipshit photographer, basically, like a bit of a wannabe, but someone who's obviously got an eye and some talent and some schponk. I buy that. I feel like all of that's fine. The biggest crime I think the movie commits is there's just like a 20-minute section 2/3 of the way in, start of the third act, I guess, where I have no idea what happens even on my second watch. I just cannot focus on this film at that point. Like, it's around the time he's just laying around and he gets scratched up and some other shit happens and there's an argument and then you're back in the action. What is that section? There's like a fallow patch of nothing.
He follows Mahogany.
Can we call him Midnight Meat Train?
Mr. Midnight Meat Man.
Yeah.
He follows him,
Yep.
and Mahogany.
Does he have a name? Anything beyond? He's just Mahogany, isn't he?
He's just called Mahogany, even in the short story.
Interesting.
He's not like Pete Mahogany.
I was gonna go for like mahogany cock, or something disgusting.
Mahogany at this point knows that he's meant to replace him. It's implied that when you're the Midnight Meat Man, you have some sort of sense of who the next Midnight Meat Man is meant to be.
How's that implied? I must have missed that completely.
It's implied at the end when
Oh.
the guy who is in the blood at the beginning, he's meant to be the takeover guy from Leonard. Leonard, is that his name? Leon.
Who the fuck is Leonard?
Leon.
Oh, Leon. I thought, oh no, I fucked it up completely. There's another guy called Leonard who I've just completely missed.
No, I think I'm getting Leon mixed up with the main guy in Pi.
Pi.
Yeah. Seen Pi?
Nope.
Good movie.
Don't care.
You don't care about Pi? It's Darren Aronofsky's first movie. It's about like...
Is it the symbol of pi on the cover? The pi mathematical... Right, okay.
It's all about like numerology and Judaism and sort of like if the number 23, the movie with Jim Carrey in it, wasn't fucking horse shit.
Quite like that.
Well, got good news for you. This is better.
While you were listing things about Pi, I realized that I have actually seen another Kitamura movie. I've seen Down to Hell. Have you seen that?
No, I don't think so.
I thought it was fucking rad.
Yeah, he's a good director.
Then what went wrong? So, go on. How is it implied that Mahogany needs to hand the torch over to Leon?
It's just the scene at the end is Bradley Cooper like letting this new guy, like getting him involved. So that it's just sort of the implication is that you know who the guy who's going to be the new Mr. Meat is.
Got you.
So
didn't get that at all, but here we are.
So Mahogany knows that he's following him.
Right.
Like he like they have a little face off at one point.
Fairly, I remember that
early
bit,
on. And so and then he gets knocked out presumably it's in the meatpacking district, but
yeah,
that's not really explained or in the text. And then he sends him off on the meat train to the fathers, which is what they're called in the book, the people that live under the city.
Okay.
And they, brand him as the meat man, as the new Mr. Meat.
Because then you find out at the end, you see Vinnie Jones's meat man markings, and you know he's been branded a meat man. Okay, got you. It's,
but yeah, it does drag a little bit in that dip before you go into like if you imagine it's a roller coaster, it's the boring bit when you
right. Yeah, but there's none of the anticipation really that you get in a roller coaster. I guess for me, it's like I know I've talked a lot about how my brain is programmed in this episode, but my brain is programmed to anticipate a boss fight and therefore just like start making a shopping list or something. And the boss fight in this is fine, I would say.
Yeah.
What do you think about the decision to only include the Meat Munching Masters at the very, very end, despite them looking incredibly cool and being fucking awesome conceptually? They're in it for about 4 seconds.
I don't like that. And I think that is a real missed opportunity and something in the book or in the short story that they do much, much better. So, I mean, in the short story, Mahogany Can Talk, you spend quite a lot of time with him as he's getting ready and like talking to himself and thinking and engaging, and you understand that he's a real character and he's not dying of like some weird wasting disease or whatever. He's just getting old.
Right. That's much cooler, but yeah.
Yeah, and therefore needs to pass on the meat torch to someone new.
So in the movie, is it implied that he's not talking because he doesn't have a tongue, and that's why Bradley Cooper gets his tongue ripped out? The Midnight Meat Man has no tongue.
Yeah, but I mean that Leon gets his tongue ripped out in the short story as well.
Right.
But it's never really explained why.
Okay.
But Leon has a full conversation with like the fathers is the name of the people that live underground, and there's also like an additional like bigger god type figure
Ooh,
under the city who Leon is like just feels compelled to worship.
that's very fun.
Yeah, that's the cool Clive Barker thing.
Yeah,
Like I feel like they stripped out all of the cool Clive Barker and just kept all of the basic Clive Barker.
to make it a
And
slasher, I guess, to essentially
yeah,
be able to brand it a slasher. Yeah,
which I think is interesting because it does invert some of those slasher tropes.
yeah.
Like we talk all day about fucking inverted and slasher tropes. It must be so boring to be a listener, but like,
Hard disagree. I think this is riveting stuff. Carry on.
but yeah, like the fact that like if you don't go on the subway, you're never gonna meet the man,
The Meat Man?
the meat man. Do you
Okay.
know the meat man?
The Meat Man of Meat the Meat Man of the Midnight Meat Man of Meat Train Town.
Yes. You're never gonna meet him. You're never gonna come across him
Right.
unless you see him on the street, and he's not gonna get you on the street. He only gets you on the train for some reason.
Don't even get me started on the train mechanics of the Midnight Meat Train and how and why this has to happen this way, because Thumb's notes, I've got extensive critique. We'll just skip that.
But like the idea that like there is a slasher who is killing people. He's not
Yeah.
slashing, he's bashing, but there's a basher.
The
And
Bash Man.
yeah,
The Bash Man on the Midnight Meat Train.
that's the guy that sells you Coke on the tube, right?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
But yeah, the inversion is that like we spend most of our time with our hero following the slasher rather than the other way around. Obviously, we
sure.
know we learn maybe later that Mahogany knows and wants him to be following him. It's all part of their seductive dance that they're doing together. But like ultimately, from a viewer perspective, we spend most of our time following the slasher.
Which
the
I think is
basher.
quite fun because it's the basher. Because I think what you get is a strange take on a cat and mouse story where the mouse is kind of following tentatively, almost poking at the cat. And you know the cat's going to rear around and rip it to shreds at some point. But it's still fun to try and find out why and to stay with the mouse as long as possible. And we get these little glances in and out of other people's POVs during killing sessions, whatever you want to call them, during the meat mashups. And that's interesting and kind of fun because it does play with the overall perspective of the movie. So there's a lot to kind of keep you, pivoting in this movie, despite, as we said, some fairly egregious plotting mishaps. But, by that point in the movie, once the whole like fallow, nothingy kind of period is over, it is pretty much jam-packed with action till the very end. But my favorite part of the movie is still the first 15-20 minutes. I think there's some really good stuff in there. The scene setting, despite like the gross color palette and the absolutely grim and unforgiving use of music, the first like 15-20 minutes do a great job of putting you in a real feeling place and a fairly genuine, believable, if wet group of people that make you want to watch more.
Yeah, the color palette, I think that is the color palette of every movie, every Lionsgate horror movie that came out from 2004 to 2011. But they try and make it part of the text here. They try and show the city as this sort of cool and dark and like aloof, grey, horrible place. And so they try and make a point of it. I don't think it really works though.
No, my best description of all of that is steely, I guess, is the look they're going for. And yeah, it's all grey, turquoise palette, cyan, whatever. And then you splash red on it and it's supposed to look cool. But no, it's terrible. One thing I did notice, just going back to your point about his photography not being very good, there's a moment where you see his photograph and then you also see the freeze frame from the CCTV, and it's almost exactly the same. Just saying, like, his photography is as good as a CCTV camera on the subway.
Yeah, it's so silly. And like maybe the people that program the CCTV are also incredible artists.
Yeah, they could be undiscovered, budding photographers themselves.
Yeah, videographers, I would imagine.
Yeah, most probably. Yeah,
That's the
good
sequel.
point. Actually. There's one little Easter egg. Well, it might not even be an Easter egg. I don't know. I noticed there's the bit where Bradley Cooper's riding the front of the meat train. Oh, forgive me. The destination of the meat train is Grant Avenue, which is in Liverpool, right?
Yes, it is. But there's
That's
also
all I spotted.
there's a Grant. I think there's a Grant Street or Grant Avenue West or something in New York as well.
So that's probably just a nice little
Yeah,
tip of the hat to old Clive.
yeah. And like I say, it's meant to be New York or it's not. I don't know, but it definitely
yeah.
doesn't feel like New York to me.
No, as always, I love when a movie is or a book or anything is kind of ambiguous about place in terms of like naming it or orienting you in any way with a landmark of any kind. But I do like it to have enough of a sense of itself and its identity for you to feel like it's akin to X or whatever. And this
Yeah.
didn't feel particularly New York to me, but I kind of liked that it was just an anonymous, grey, nothing, horrible city because you felt sort of adrift and the action kind of gives you a bit of an anchor and it makes you hang on to the characters a little bit more rather than being like a big apple tale that's mean in the city. It was just like
Yeah.
the city matters. It's important that you understand the character of it, but it's not, the central focus here. The central focus is the meat train.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, you're trying to make me laugh by saying that, but it didn't work.
Not at all. That's
but I
what
think
the movie's called. Listen, it's just a coincidence. Every time anyone says it, I laugh. It doesn't mean I'm trying to do the same.
Like in the short story, it's very pointed that it's New York.
Yeah.
And it's based on a time when Clive Barker visited New York when he was quite young, in like his early 20s. And he wanted to go to New York via bus. He wanted to sort of experience entering New York on the bus, getting off at the Port Authority bus station. And then also him falling asleep on the subway and waking up in Far Rockaway and being like, okay, it's 1 a.m. and now I'm stuck in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Nice.
But yeah, I think it's really pointed that it's New York because New York specifically, I mean, other cities do this now, but obviously this was written in the early 80s. But New York eats its history every generation. Like it reinvents itself almost entirely, and the people that live there just have to deal with that. And so, like the idea that like the city, particularly New York, has a human toll, and there's like a human cost to keeping a city running like that, is fundamentally what I think the story is about. Like the idea that there are, and this is the class element that we sort of touched on before, but I think like the idea that there are people that the city is just determined as these people need to die in order for the rest of us to carry on and live in relative luxury. These people have these specific roles, and that is they're either killers or they're, I mean, in the book, there are other people involved in the midnight meat orbit. There are people that come and clean the trains. They should have got those to come in between setups. But there's other people that are involved in this sort of industry.
Yeah.
And it's much more of like, okay, I'm the meat man, that's my job.
Yeah.
Rather than like, I am the chosen meat man.
It's not all about the meat in the book necessarily. Yeah, I get that. And that's very cool. And I think localizing this in New York would have been production hell, probably would have been a total nightmare. And they were doing stuff and saying stuff in this that you couldn't really believably do with New York. They were saying about how horribly dangerous it is to ride the subway, and only people who fucking have to ride the subway. Like, it's not really true of New York in '08 at all, and it would have been a hard sell, I think. But there's a lot that doesn't really bother me about the decision to not make this New York. But again, I think, you lump a few million extra on, you get someone other than fucking Vinnie Jones, and you don't have CG gore, and you've got a fucking amazing New York movie.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if this movie was made in any other decade, it would be amazing. Like, think about some of the great subway movies that have come out over the years.
Warriors.
Like, Warriors, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Like,
Fuck yeah.
Even like, what's that fucking zombies in the London subway movie. They're not
Oh, I know
zombies.
the
They're
one you
just
mean.
monsters.
It's called like Chud or Choke or
No,
Chosen.
Chud is New York. They're just tunnel dwellers.
Right.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers, in
That's the
fact. But no, it's called like Red Line.
How good is The Taking of Pelham 123, the remake with Denzel Washington?
I haven't seen the remake with Denzel Washington.
Have you not?
No.
You're talking about the original.
Yeah.
Oh, the remake's lovely.
I bet it is. I have such a strong connection to The Taking of Pelham 123, the original.
Well, Walter Matthau, like,
Yeah.
phenomenal. I was so surprised at how much I enjoyed the remake because me and Claire go and see every Denzel movie at the cinema, and we thought, okay, it's Denzel and Travolta isn't exactly killing it right now.
Mm.
I mean, neither was Denzel Washington, in fairness, but it's so of its time. But it's 2009. It's the year after this. It's got a lot in common with this in a lot of ways. There's a lot of horrible slow motion, like low shutter speed, zooming in and out crap. There's a pretty gross color palette, a lot of terrible music. They're both so of their time. I wouldn't be amazed to find that it was Lionsgate. It probably isn't because it's too big, I guess. But it's got a lot of charm, and it's performance wise pretty fucking awesome. So check it out if you haven't already.
And
It's got Louis Guzman in it, who I love.
Louis.
Yeah.
Luis.
Is it Luis?
Yeah.
It's got John Turturro in it. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
It's got James Gandolfini.
I watched something with Totoro in it recently.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh, it's fucking To Live and Die in LA. He's so good in To Live and Die in LA.
Yeah, he's kind of unfuckwithable. But yeah, check. I mean, if you're watching this, you might as well double barrel it with a headline act of the remake of The Taking of Pelham 123 because
Don't watch the
it's
remake.
1 year later and it's great fun.
I promise you, Sam, that I will watch the remake of Pelham 123.
I think
the remaking of Pelham 123.
Yeah. I think I probably should have recommended this when you were looking for a decent action movie the other night because it is, it's a tense action thriller.
Yeah, well, I nearly watched the OG.
Really?
Yeah, me and Kaz sat down and watched it relatively recently,
Hmm.
and I'm going to blow your mind here. Kaz loved it.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, I just watched To Live and Die in LA. A thing that I thought was quite interesting is the parallels to Candyman.
Hmm.
So the movie version of Candyman and the movie version of The Midnight Meat Train
Mm-hmm.
have very, very similar plot beats.
Yeah, starting to see it. I hadn't thought about that at all, but yeah.
So in Candyman, your main lady gets obsessed with the Candyman. She has to find him. She is drawn into this murky world, following him around. And then ultimately, at the end of the movie, spoiler alert for Candyman, if you haven't seen it, but at the end of the movie Candyman, she becomes the Candyman.
I see what you're saying.
And in the movie The Midnight Meat Train, Leon follows around the Meat Man and then ultimately becomes the Meat Man.
Yeah. Good spot. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think...
Such a boring question.
I mean, I think that it's something that Clive Barker is interested in terms of how we're forced to take up specific roles in society. And obviously, Candyman is also about class and how there's a clear class divide. And obviously, that wasn't written about the South in America. It was written about Liverpool.
Yeah.
And the Candyman isn't a black guy. He's a Scouse man. So they've already sort of moved away from the source material. So I do think it's quite interesting that the distance between this movie and the source material, it's a lot closer to the source material, particularly in vibes. But weird that it lands so close to Candyman in that way. But Candyman is ultimately about how, we have to become something that we hate in order to protect the place that we love.
Yeah.
And again, that is kind of what the plot is here. We have to become the Meat Man to protect the city. Although we don't think that he ever loves the city. He just thinks that it's a dark place and it's cool to take photos in.
No, that's an interesting observation. It makes me think that maybe Clive Barker is digging at something related to fate and destiny a little bit more than I'd realized until you put the two movies side by side.
Yeah.
You know, the other through line is between the two movies, Ted
Go on.
Raimi. He's in both.
Of course he is, yeah.
Heck
Well,
yeah, Ted.
I wondered also if you thought that Ted's eye coming out is a vague reference or
It's gotta be.
callback to Henrietta.
It absolutely has to be. Yeah, surely. I mean, at that point, you got to think Ted Raimi's got some fucking horror currency. You know,
Yeah.
people see him, they recognize him, they want to see something happen. If his eye pops out, crowds are going nuts, right? Especially, you know, evil deadheads themselves.
It's tricky because like he is no longer Henrietta, or Henrietta is no longer that character when the eye comes out. So there's already some distance there, and like you don't necessarily recognize him as Henrietta because he's under so much prosthetics.
You have to know, don't you? It just
Yeah.
feels like an Evil Dead nod generally, you know, and done better, done like Sam Raimi would have done it. It would be a very flattering tip of the hat, I think.
Oh,
But
can you imagine if Sam Raimi directed this movie?
I thought about it the whole fucking way. For the second I saw Ted, I was like, I didn't fucking remember him the first time. I thought, oh boy, imagine if this was a Raimi Boys production. You'd have fucking Bruce Campbell in Vince fucking, what's his name? I forgot.
Vinnie
Fucking
Jones.
Vinnie Jones's shoes. The Midnight Meat Man would be fucking Bruce Campbell. Do you know what I mean? It would be a movie of top tier caliber.
That
We'd
would
be
also work
fucking
because
killing
like
it.
I could almost see Bruce Campbell. Like there are, I think there are multiple Bruce Campbells in
Yeah.
the world. I mean, there are obviously more than one person called Bruce Campbell, but there are multiple different Bruce Campbells in his roles.
Yeah.
Like he has sort of fallen in the last 20 years or so into playing these sort of buffoonish characters.
Mm.
But like if he was like playing Mahogany, kind of like how it is in the book, as like basically like Quint, and like he's disillusioned but he's just bound by this duty. I really think that I could see that with Bruce Campbell. I would love to see him do that, like not taking the piss role.
Yeah, for sure. And if he's got a ton of dialogue and he's talking to himself in these like seedy, well, not even seedy, in these like pristine, clean, weird rooms with jars full of his own body parts, I think it's fucking made for him to plumb some slightly deeper, more menacing depths, but maybe still bring some of that, the sort of unease that he just conjures by looking around. You know, he'd be fantastic at that. He'd be scary. He's got the physicality for it. He's not as huge as Vinnie Jones, but he could be for the fucking movie. Do you know what I mean? He could beef up.
He doesn't even need to beef up because the vibe in the story is that he's
Yeah.
if we remove the weird cancerous lumps element and return it back to the source material, and he's just a guy getting older and isn't
Getting on
as
a bit.
nimble as he used to be.
Oh,
then-
scarier if you're not a giant hulking fucking West Ham bouncer guy as well. Like
Yeah.
way scarier if you're just a guy that you could fucking sit next to on the tube and not know was about to gut you.
Yeah, I mean that's what gives you the fear in like Hostel or whatever.
Mm.
Is that it's just like people that have no control in their real lives, and so
Yeah.
they want to have this bit of control. Like I think Bruce Campbell could nail that. I mean, I know that there are more horror actors working in the genre, and that he does like tend towards the buffoonish character, but I just think it would work. But
It
I
would
think
definitely work.
like there are some fairly decent moments of like directorial swinging in this. Some stuff where we move into like a sort of Finchery type space.
Yeah.
Specifically, like there's shots of him going down into the subway, and the symmetry of it is like really clinical and beautiful. But like, yeah, the real clinical vibe comes through, and it looks really nice. And like you get he's sort of going down this escalator, and it sort of feels like the world is closing in, like the world within the subway is like much closer, much more claustrophobic. And then also there's that shot where, I mean, I don't know why he's doing it, but when he's looking at the microfiche and it's like projected onto his face,
Yeah.
that is just fucking cool. And like, I wouldn't be surprised if that is taken directly from Fincher somewhere. It just feels like such a David Fincher move.
It's very noir. I think there's some nods to
Yeah.
when anything that's not in the subway feels a bit noir influenced at least. You know, the whole color palette shifts to that kind of taupey brown, and
Yeah.
you do have a bit of a counterpoint to the cold, sort of sterile bleakness of the subway that works quite well. Yeah, there's definitely some subtle camera work that I think is really cool, especially for a fucking mad action movie for the most part. I definitely don't have much of a problem with a lot of the shooting and how, especially when we're slipping in and out of first person on the subway. I actually find that really quite fun. So yeah, no like huge blunderous fuck ups there as far as my viewer experience went. What do you think of the soundtrack, the music in this movie?
I'd rather not.
Oh, it's agony. It's just like, what do you even call that? It's 2008. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's not dance music. It's like electronic.
Like industrial or whatever.
Yeah, it's electronic industrial tension music. It's like dystopian, but not fun. It's hard to pin down what it is as a genre, but fun, it ain't. And it's a bit Creature from the Black Lagoon in that it's constant.
I don't like it, but I tell you what I don't like more.
What?
Everything involving a train.
In the movie?
Yeah.
Really?
All those like whooshy shots of like the subway and the trains going through the subway and you.
But that's thrilling.
Like it would be thrilling if
it is thrilling in Pelham 123.
Like literally
Give you that much.
Yeah, like it would be thrilling if it was remotely believable at any point. I don't think they're real. I think they're all CG.
Yeah, I got that feeling as well. And if they are, it's the only good bit of the CG in the movie because it's not glaringly obvious on first watch.
It's not glaringly obvious, but it's not good.
Well, I don't think they look like LA trains, so...
No, but they also don't look like New York trains.
No, which works.
I find that really jarring because, because I'm coming from a place where I'm like, this is meant to be New York, which that's on me because I'm carrying that baggage from the short story.
Yeah.
I like the way they talk about the city. That's how people talk about New York.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, LA has a different underground, like, crime vibe. It's not street toughs. It's more like gangs and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
In movies, LA isn't personified by cold, distant indifference, aggression, rot. It's a slightly different kind of urban turpitude. It's just a different vibe, yeah.
Yeah, like LA is meant to be, there's an underbelly.
Yeah.
But the overbelly is like glitzy and lovely and shiny. Yeah. So
and
like
that's the fun duality of LA. The fun duality of New York is that everyone hates each other, but everyone would die for each other.
Yeah.
In movie land, we're talking about characterizing these enormous cities. That's the Hollywood version, right? And you don't get that in this movie at all. It doesn't come across. That's why I like it as like a hinterland city, a non-specific, weird, cold-looking, dark, chilly city that has Philly cheesesteaks and a New York-style subway. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can get a Philly cheesesteak in Liverpool. It's shit, but it exists.
I can't get a Philly cheesesteak where I live. I'll tell you that much for free. I can't even get a train where I live.
You can definitely get a Philly cheesesteak.
Midnight meat train.
You can definitely get a Philly cheesesteak where you live because they sell them in Wetherspoons.
Do they really?
I mean, they have a thing on the menu that's called a Philly cheesesteak. Next time someone, like a mate is over from Philly, maybe take them.
Take them for an authentic Philly cheesesteak. Yeah, okay. Well, how bad is that? I've got more chance of getting a Philly cheesesteak than a train where I live.
Yeah. I had one other sort of observation about the sort of secret society underground element of it.
Yeah.
I guess it's more an observation from the short story than from the movie because we never really understand the motivation of the creatures that live under the sea. I guess the vibe is if you don't feed them, they will eventually come up to the surface.
That's all I got. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't satiate their hunger, they will take over the world, I guess.
Yeah. I like the idea that the city are in on it and the city understand that there is this sacrifice that needs to be made and a couple of people every month to feed these hordes of beasts under the city. Yeah. It sort of made me think about like secret societies like the Illuminati and stuff and whether like we're meant to maybe think about that. They've got these symbols that they wear. The cop is wearing the same symbol that Mahogany wears on his ring.
Yeah.
So like the idea that like there are these cities, not cities, that there are these societies that demand sacrifice in
Mm.
order to continue secretly running the world.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that's a reach. It's just sort of something that I thought about when I was just thinking.
I think it's the best kind of reach because it's a reach that's inspired by things that actually happen in the movie. It extends your imagination beyond the frame that you're looking at. And I think that's fucking the best thing the movie does. And it happens right at the very end in a few seconds. You know, there is something clandestine and vaguely Masonic about what the glimpses we get of the organization. And it does stand to reason that, sure, that might exist on a fucking global scale. And that's cool. You know,
Yeah.
subterranean, civilizations of ancient demonic / godlike beings who need to feast on human flesh in order to survive, constantly, fucking 6 feet below our feet at all times, ready to engulf us in an instant. That's the coolest part of the movie, and we get it for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I
There's
love
like
that.
there's a scene which makes no sense in isolation, which is when the cop stops Leon when he's following Mahogany. And
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, you might have a bomb in your camera or whatever.
yeah.
And you're like, this is fucking nonsense. This
But
makes
I
no
thought that was
sense.
that was my first hint that
Yeah.
it was a bigger thing, and I was like, well, that cop's in on it, and that was really interesting to me. And I thought, clever placement. That for some people that's just going to be like, oh fuck me, dumb cop. Not everything's a bomb, but yeah, tie it in with the bigger picture, and
Yeah.
you've got a really interesting through line of cops being on the payroll, and like you said, the most interesting thing for me about conspiracy theory fiction and new world order type stuff in cinema is the idea that it's all true. We've just got it a bit wrong. Like we're
Yeah.
slightly off the track of the truth, and that it's been dumbed down a bit, or it's deeper than you imagined. They're the most fun devices to play with, and this movie could have grabbed that and run with it, but instead it's just Vinnie Jones pummeling people with a meat hammer for 86 minutes, and then a little bit of that at the end, which is fine.
Did you watch an 86-minute version of it?
No, but I did turn down the opportunity to watch something called like the extended mash or something, or the full on meat or whatever it is. There's a version that's longer, right? No, an hour and an hour and 40 was enough for me. Enough meat at midnight for me. Were you left wanting more? Were you left gasping for more from the Midnight Meat Train?
I've not seen the extreme edition, the full meat, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Right, Sam, shall we take a break, come back and finish off?
Yep.
Let's alight the Midnight Meat Train once and for all.
Alighting it. I want to stay on till the bitter end.
Okay. Well, you maintain your position on the end of the Midnight Meat Train, and I'll take a break.
Okay.
Come on, man. Does that thing even work? No. There's nothing out there. It's just dead air.
How was your break? Did you visit the refreshments? Fucking what is it?
The trolley? The trolley came round.
I don't remember trains where they actually had stuff on them.
There's a new thing, like, I say new, but where they have like a little place where you go and buy a fucking terrible toasty or whatever.
Oh, God.
I once got a first class train
Mm.
that I was going to Fright Fest in Glasgow, and I think someone who was also going to Fright Fest in Glasgow was the conductor.
Okay.
And I think I knew him from the forum, and he was like, come and sit in first class. And they gave me a curry. It was great.
Wow. Holy shit, that sounds great. Sounds like the start of a deeply self-referential Midnight Meat Train remake, where a bunch of young horror fans end up inadvertently on an overnight Midnight Meat Train.
I'll tell you what, you wouldn't want to be on the Midnight Curry Train with me.
No, I was going to say, what a pickle you must have got yourself into. Such a long train, starting it with a curry and ending it at a horror festival.
Yeah, ending it, spending the day in a cinema.
Yeah, clean up on aisle everywhere near Jamie.
Yeah. I can't think of any way to tie this into the movie, so I think people should just follow us on social media at FT Horror Show.
Akin to the way that Bradley Cooper follows Vinnie Jones in this movie, you should begin stalking us on the internet. If you want to ride the Midnight Meat Train, follow us on social media and you're guaranteed a good time. Rate and review for extra hot sloppy sauce on your
Yeah.
like you Bradley Cooper like sticks his fingers in that guy's food and just licks them. That's what we want you to do to us on the internet
Yeah, come and grab
by
a couple
reviewing.
of bites of steak off our plate over at Instagram and TikTok.
There you go, you got it. At FT Horror Show. Do that.
Yeah.
And don't say sorry, just do it.
Don't say sorry. It's funny that like she's mad that he eats meat as well. She's like, I know you ate meat. I'm not mad about it. It's like, well, why?
Yeah,
bring it
and
up
how
then?
the fuck does she know? Like, who told her? It's so weird.
Well, she works at the diner, right? She's
Oh,
also
yeah.
vegan and she works at the diner.
Right, okay.
I
cool,
think
got you.
he's my favorite character as well. The guy that owns the diner. It's Taub
He's
from
great.
House.
Yeah, he's sick.
He's great. But yeah, follow us, like our posts on social media. Well, this has gone weird. Like and subscribe was what was coming out of my mouth then. You should like and subscribe. If you like it, subscribe.
Yeah, if you like it, put a subscribe on it. And if you don't, we'll beat you to death.
Yeah, we'll send Uncle Larry around with a meat tenderizer
Yep.
to
and then
shave your entire body.
just flay you raw.
Yeah.
Mm.
Also, Sam.
Yeah.
If you like this, you should tell a friend.
Yeah, drag them into your personal hell. Why not? Everyone loves that guy who's like, oh, you should listen to this podcast. So be that guy. Get out there and embody the movement.
Sam, can I ask you a question?
Yes. Are you eating right now?
Yeah,
That has
I
to be
am.
a first for the Final Transmission podcast. Jamie has just started eating people. Eating people? Eating, comma, people. This is a landmark moment. We've crossed a bridge
Yeah.
where the Midnight Meat Train has pulled out the station and driven into Jamie's mouth. I knew we'd get there eventually. We started by like having a cocktail every now and then or having a beer every now and then. Now we're just fucking eating dinner. This
Yeah.
is great. What are you eating?
We're through the looking glass here.
You're eating steak.
No, I'm eating a Rene.
Ja-
Um,
Jamie's lapping Rennie sauce off his fingers right now as we speak. You can't see it, but it's beautiful. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I can't remember.
Eating is cheating, Jamie.
Eating's not cheating. That's what I heard.
Eating a Rennie. Fantastic.
What was I saying, Sam?
You were talking about telling people to listen to our podcast.
Yeah, do that.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so why don't we finally, Sam,
Yep.
the moment that everyone's been waiting for,
Yep.
sum up your thoughts and feelings about the Mighty Meat Man and his tubular train.
Yeah, it's a 2.5 out of 7 for me. The
Oof,
Midnight
that's low.
Meat Train. Yeah, it's real low. It's not a movie I would voluntarily go back and watch ever again, I don't think. But there is a lot of fun to be pulled out of it. It just doesn't pump my plums in the way a lot of other Midnight Meat Trains have in my life. It's fun for what it is, and it shouldn't not exist. There are some great moments of directorial flair, some really rock solid performances at times, just a whole bunch of unlikable crap in the middle for me, and some missed opportunities to do something incredibly exciting and interesting. So definitely don't hate it. Don't even really dislike it. Just can't rate it much higher, because every time I think, I think, Vinnie Jones. And then I think, and then I think of all those blue shots in the subway, and it just kind of sucks the fun out of it a little bit. So wish I could rate it higher. Can't. Definitely don't hate it. Definitely didn't suck. Just not my kind of movie, really. At its core, I think it is a bit of a failed experiment. That being said, what a great title. I've really come around on it. I think it's superb.
You've come around on the Midnight Meat Train.
I really have, in so many ways. Handing the meat to you, my friend. Here's the porky baton. What do you think of this movie?
Why is it so wet, Sam?
Sorry. Slobbering all over it.
I mean, I like it. I think, like, fundamentally, it's trying to do something that is better than all the stuff that was coming out around it. But it doesn't. It ultimately fails. Like, despite the
But
fact
at
that
least it tries, you know?
Yeah.
I really feel that, yeah.
it's got actual actors in it giving actual performances. It's got a director in it that gives us shit and is trying to. I don't know how much, say, the color scheme is imposed on it. Like, oh, we've got a bunch of Lionsgate money, and they think that films have to look like this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
It's like a stable decision. Like,
yeah, and so the director Raya Kitamura is like, okay, well, how do I make that diegetic?
hmm
Like, how do I make that part of what the story that I'm trying to sell? So it's not just we live in a blue world and everything is fucking blue.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's trying, and it wants to be better, but ultimately it's completely constrained by the way that genre films existed in 2008. And
Mm.
I also kind of think that's my criticism of Clive Barker in general,
Right.
is that he has amazing ideas and he's doing interesting things, but a lot of the time he's just sort of talking about blood in a boring
Mm.
way. And like there is this short story is 38 pages long,
Mm.
and like we spend a lot of time with Leon and we spend a lot of time with Mahogany, and it's perfectly fine. It's quite interesting. We get an understanding of the city and an understanding of why things are happening like this. But it only becomes really actually interesting when they introduce this god figure, this underground deity that you feel compelled to worship. Like the idea that you feel compelled to worship it is the interesting thing.
Yeah.
Like if God exists in reality now, who cares? I don't feel compelled to worship God.
Mm.
So the idea that like you see something and you're like, yes, you are my God now.
Yeah. It's like the definition of actual awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's way more interesting than anything else. And like if you think about contemporaneous like horror writers at the time, you've got like people like Sean Hudson and James Herbert and
Mm.
people like that, and like even Stephen King. It's these tiny ideas that separate Clive Barker from all of these other writers, I think.
Sure.
But for the most part, it's very much in the same wheelhouse, in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what Midnight Meat Train fails at is that it doesn't include that idea.
Yeah. It's a whoopsie.
So yeah, that makes it a big whoopsie. And I'm going to give it 8 little guys hanging off the little handles on the train, which I think is a really cool visual. And
Mm.
something I think about sometimes when I'm just on a train is like these handles.
I wonder what
Yeah.
that look on your face was.
Yeah. But yeah, 8 of those out of 14.
Interesting. That's fairly
So
high.
just over half, but
Yeah.
only just. And like if you want to sit down and watch a Midnight Meat movie
Mm.
about a man riding a meat train and hitting people with a hammer, like this movie is that.
Yeah.
If you
If
want
that mood happens to take you.
yeah. If you want a movie where if you really, really think about it, there are some interesting things in there. You'll get that from this.
Yeah. If you want hard work for little reward, Midnight
Yeah.
Meat Train is exactly the movie you should be watching.
Yeah, there are much better splatter type movies with a message in there somewhere
Yeah.
that you don't have to scrabble around in the little bone pile to find.
You have to spend 2 hours making a podcast about it to
Yeah.
find anything good about it. I
But-
tell you what, though,
It's there.
we are really lucky to have Bradley Cooper in this movie because literally 1 year later, he has his breakout performance in The Hangover. So
Yeah.
this could easily have been fucking hundreds of other people in this movie.
I would love to understand the casting process here because I mean he's already been in The Wedding Crashers at this point, and like
He definitely had a career by this point. Don't get me wrong. He's in a lot of real serious, like top tier TV and some good movies. You know, he's in Sex and the City. He's in some CSI, like you said, Wedding Crashers. But he fucking rockets onto superstardom on the meat train next with good old fucking The Hangover, in which I think he is really fucking compelling. I think he steps up to that. Oh, you hate him in that, don't you?
I mean, I just kind of hate that movie and that whole vibe of movie.
Yeah. Yeah. it's
Just
not your
like
thing.
comedies about men. My flavor of that is much more in the I Love You Man and the what's the other Paul Rudd one where they're selling fucking energy drinks and they have to go to camp. Step Brothers. That's not Step Brothers.
Role models.
There you go. Role Models. That's the one.
2008, same as Meat Train. So while Meat Train's being made, this is also being made in the
Yeah, but
same
that's-
city. How fun is that?
That's my favorite sort of flavor, is like comedies about men who are fuck ups, but also get the job done.
I mean, that's the plot of The Hangover, Jay.
I don't think it is. The plot of The Hangover is men that are fuck ups that, I don't know. I have.
Is
my
there a
issue-
slight tonal difference in
Yeah.
The Hangover is maybe quote unquote nastier than Role
Yeah.
Models, you could say.
I think films like Role Models and I Love You Man and Get Him to the Greek. I love Get Him to the Greek, which is
Right.
bonkers. But
Yeah.
they feel quite wholesome.
Definitely.
And The
I
Hangover
Love You
never
Man is incredibly wholesome.
Yeah, The Hangover never
naughty.
felt particularly wholesome to me. Oh, also, I hate Zach Galifianakis.
Do you?
And I hate Ed Helms.
Oh.
I like some Bradley Cooper movies. I like A Star Is Born, Cry Like a Baby.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Is
Silver
that a
Lining
comment
Playbook.
about A Star Is Born, or is there a movie called Cry Like a Baby?
That was a comment about A Star Is Born.
Okay, just checking. I never know. Sometimes you say things, I don't know if they're movies or popular expressions or just things you're saying, because everything could be a movie with you.
I cry like a baby when I watch A Star Is Born.
Hmm.
But I also well up a little bit every time I hear the song The Shallows.
Yeah?
Yeah. Really nails it for me.
Interesting notes to hit with you. I'm not necessarily surprised at all. But I just didn't think that would be the thing that got you.
I like Silver Linings Playbook.
That's fucking great. That's a really great movie. And the American Sniper movie was pretty okay.
Yeah, I think maybe anything that has a black and white poster that has Bradley Cooper in it, I'm probably in. I'm probably into it.
I think he's probably a lot more fun in real life than his career has let him be because he's so hot.
Yeah, I forgot that he's in Wet Hot American Summer now.
Yeah. He's in Nightmare Alley, which I'm dying to see because I love the book and I've loved the book forever. He's fucking great in Licorice Pizza. He's really funny in that. And yeah, didn't put much of a foot wrong for me. I like the guy, but I like what I like about his performances. I don't like his character at all in this, and I find that to be a big step for an actor who I find really likable. So yeah, like I said, a lot of good shit, a lot of bad shit. Midnight Meat Train pulling into a station near you soon. Squelch, squelch.
Yeah. Welcome to 2008.